In this lesson, we'll be discussing the sort transform. The sort transform is used for ordering data by columns that you select, very similar to how an order by function is used in T-SQL. You'll see all over this chapter when you start to read it that it looks a lot like we're trying to tell you not to use the sort transform, and there's a reason. It's an asynchronous transform, which means it requires everything, all rows that come through the sort transform have to go through the operation of sorting before it can continue past the sort transform. This kills your performance. So you'll notice that we have a big warning in the chapter, and we give all kinds of ideas on avoiding to use the sort transform. So at all costs, there's not a whole lot of reasons why you would use a sort transform instead of actually doing an order by in T-SQL. But it is a transform, so we're gonna show you how to use it. But again, as you can see on the slide, avoid using this transform at all cost. There's simple ways to get around using it, and we're going to show you how to do that, and also how to use the sort transform. All right, so let's get right to it. We're actually going to use what's from the last lesson, Lesson 18. We're going to copy this package into a new package called Lesson 19. And to do that, we'll go into the Solution Explorer, right-click on the package, and we're going to copy and then paste that into the SSIS package folder. And then rename that Lesson 19. Oops. Let's try that one more time. There it goes. Change it for us. Okay, so now let's go ahead into our data flow. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how to correctly not use the sort transform. Remember we talked that using the sort transform is not a best practice because it's an asynchronous transform, and it's going to hold up if we put a sort transform between our aggregate transform and our flat file destination, then it's going to have to wait for everything to sort in between here before it can move any data on. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you how to avoid using the sort transform. And we're going to do that by going into our source. So by double clicking on our source here. And once we've opened our source, we're going to do an order by. Just like you would in T-SQL, we have our SQL command text here, and right after our from statement, we'll do an order by. And in this section, we're doing order by quantity, descendingly. And once you have that, that's close to all you have to do. It seems pretty simple, but there's one more trick. When you do an order by in your SQL statement here, SSIS doesn't realize that you've done an order by. So you need to let it know. We're going to right-click on the OLEDB source and go to the Advanced Editor by clicking Show Advanced Editor. Then we'll go to the Input and Output Properties and just touch on your OLEDB output, and you'll see an Is Sorted flag. You're going to change this to True. Then one more step, we'll dig into the OLEDB source output and then find the column that you sorted, and that was quantity in this case, and you need to change the sort key position to -1 in this case. The reason it's -1 is because we're sorting descendingly. If it was ascendingly, you do by 1. If you have more than one column that you're sorting by, if quantity was the first column, you'd say 1, and then if there was the second column we were sorting by, we say 2 on that one. So now that we have the sort key and the is sorted flag set, you click OK here. And that's how you would avoid using the sort transform. Remember, that's going to save you a lot of performance, but let's pretend like we don't know how to do that just for the purposes of knowing how to use the sort transform. I'm going to take off those two things. Took off the order by, and I'm going to go back into the editor. This way you can see how to do it one more time into the advanced editor. And when I wanted to set it, I changed the is sorted flag to true. This time I'm going to set it back to false. And then I'm going to set the quantity back to 0. Okay, so let's imagine that we wanted to use the sort transform. Although we just told you that it's not a best practice, but you've been told you need to use it for some reason. So let's bring over a sort transform from our toolbox. And we'll do it right after our aggregation here. So let's kill the constraint and bring in our sort. Connect our sort. Okay, so now that you have the sort transform over, double click to open the sort transform editor. You have the option of allowing rows to pass through, or if there's certain ones you don't want to make it to the destination, you can uncheck them. On this example, we're going to let all of the rows pass through, but if we, for some reason, didn't want them to get past the sort transform, we could uncheck them so that they were not allowed to get to the destination. We wanted to do the sort quantity by, sort by the quantity column here, so we'll check the column that we would like to sort by. You can check multiple columns if you'd like, but in this case we're only going to do one. You can see when you do check more than one that the sort order is automatically set based on the order that you check them. So this just means that if this was a T-SQL statement, the order by would first have quantity, then the two dates. We're only going to use quantity in this case. We could also change the alias if we chose to. If we wanted the column name to be different once it passed through the sort transform. And we do want to change the sort type to descendingly. You also see, again, the sort order set here. And there's one nice feature on the bottom here, that remove rows with duplicate sort values. Because we're using a quantity, so there would be several duplicates, but we would not want it to eliminate those in this case. If we were using a product ID and we just wanted product ID sorted, this might be a nice feature because it could eliminate any duplicates we'd have just by checking that option. Alright, so go ahead and click OK once you have these options set. And then we're going to connect our sort to our destination. Let's take a look at why we're getting this red X now. Let's go ahead and double click on the destination, and it'll probably be, yes it is, it's because we've gone through the sort transform, and it's given these different aliases, but they're matching up correctly. You'll notice each of the account cost or actual cost are matching up. This is simply because we added a new transform, and it's not recognizing it for some reason. This happens sometimes when you insert a new transform in between your data flow. If you can simply see here on the bottom that we want to map using column names. You do have a couple options. You could delete invalid columns or leave it alone. In this case, we're going to go ahead and map it because these look correct. And we'll select all and apply the mapping and hit OK. And you'll see our red X disappears. Just to make sure, go ahead and go into your destination. Check out the mappings. Looks like everything's good. You'll notice that they're not matched up exactly in the right order, but that's okay. As long as they're matched up to the correct columns, that works fine. We'll click OK, and we're ready to execute. So to execute the package, let's go into your Solution Explorer, and then right-click on the package and execute the package. And you'll see, like I said, normally the sort transform would take longer, but it only was getting 441 rows going into it. So that amount of data isn't going to kill your sort transform here. Alright, so let's wrap up what we've learned in this lesson. So just to review what we learned in this lesson, the sort transform is used just like an order by function would be in T-SQL. It changes the order of the data based on the columns that you selected. It is an asynchronous transform, which means it is blocking. It will block any data that you have going through your data flow pipeline from continuing until the sort transform has completed. So the biggest takeaway to take from this lesson is to not use the sort transform. We showed you a great way to avoid using the sort transform by just simply using an order by and your source, and then going into the advanced editor and setting the is sorted flag to true, and then setting the sort key on the columns that you sorted by also in the advanced editor. Remember, use T-SQL instead of the sort transform whenever possible.